All right, all right, all right. Hey, welcome to On the Rocks with me, Jamie Wilson. And tonight's episode is going to be very exciting and hopefully enlightening as well. We're going to be talking to a Pinoy rock icon whose music has helped shape the sound of original Pinoy rock for the past 30 years. Can you imagine? 30 years. Now, his music has earned him both commercial and critical success, winning him multiple awards, numerous citations. His music has also served as a soundtrack for a whole generation of fans. I mean, can you imagine? I personally know major fans of this man who have gotten laid to his music, who have gotten married to his music, and who have actually given birth listening to his music. So how's that for a whole generation of fans? He's certainly one of the most prolific artists still actively creating and releasing music today. He's been constantly reinventing himself over the years, and it's going to be very exciting to talk about his reinventions and reincarnations. He continues to explore new soundscapes with his different bands, as well as his collaborations with other bands and his own solo projects. Now, certainly one of the best songwriters, in my opinion, of his generation, and a celebrity that is no stranger to controversy and drama. We're going to get to know the man behind the music of the Eraserheads, Pupil, Octaves, and most recently, Apartel. He also so happens to be the driving force of Offshore music. So, what can I say about this man that hasn't already been said already? Well, we will see tonight. I've got a whole bunch of questions tonight for him. You are free to ask the questions on the comments, and we will pick and choose questions to ask him. I will be doing that. And of course, this guy is notoriously elusive. So, although I do have a sequence, and a whole list of questions to ask. I'm wondering if I'm going to be successful in prying any answers out from him. So hey, without further ado, let's please welcome Mr. Ely Buendia.
Hi, Jamie.
All right, all right.
Hi,
Hey, Ellie, how
guys.
you doing?
Hi. I'm good. I'm good. Pleasure to be
So,
here. Thank you for having me.
oh man, hey,
Yeah, yeah.
thank you for coming on and
Of
agreeing to
course.
do this because I must say that these past few days I've been cramming a lot of research. As much as I can, and I decided, you know what? Let's just talk about the music and the life that goes with it, and that should be
Sure,
fun.
sure.
So how has the pandemic been treating you?
Well, like everything else that's been going on around here, it's been mostly ups and a lot of downs also. My cat died
Oh
during the
no, I'm so sorry
pandemic,
to
so
hear
that was
that.
a tragedy. Yeah. I've been trying to be positive, like everyone else, in this negative atmosphere, and I think I'm doing pretty well, naman.
Well, that
Keeping myself busy, working on projects like offshore projects,
yeah,
working on
you
some.
you guys at Offshore have been really busy because it's been one release after another.
Uh,
And
we've
that's, I
been
mean, thankfully you can work from home because your studio is in your home.
oh, in that aspect, parang walang nangyari, walang nagbago,
Wala nang bago.
walang
So okay,
nagbago.
so
Yeah.
let's talk about offshore music. I mean, this is a role that is fresh for you as a president and CEO and as a producer as well. Um,
Yeah.
Now, offshore music during the lockdown has had quite a lot of releases, and you're still working on more releases, right? But what made you think of putting up a label in the first place?
Well, like I've been saying in all the interviews about offshore, the label basically came about accidentally, or rather out of necessity. Because during that time when we were recording the first Apartel album, Inner Play, um, we were wondering if we were going to release it independently nga, or sign with a label. And then parang I just felt that it was time for me to sort of kind of take control of my music for once, and then it snowballed from there. So parang everyone involved in the project in Apartel, and some friends who were fans of Apartel, we got together to form Offshore Music.
So with offshore music, you have a lot of really eclectic artists in your stable.
Yeah.
How do you choose? So you've got for example, people as varied as the Pink Men versus
Mm-hmm.
Pamphleteer with
Mm-hmm.
Enamori and Eliza Marie and Jer Oka, and they're very eclectic. I mean, it's a very eclectic lineup that you have. How what makes them offshore?
Well, yung mantra ng offshore is go where the sound takes you. And I guess that philosophy reflects in everything we do, especially with choosing the artists that we work with. And that means no boundaries or no preconceptions on what uh, a record label should sound like or what genre we should be promoting. Uh, we try to keep an open mind in terms of music here because there's just so much talent out there that to limit yourself to just one style or one kind of artist would be parang sayang lang dahil we did go into this business because of the love of music and we love all kinds of music.
So with the artists that you've signed in offshore, you did mention this earlier about you. It's finally time that you take control of your own music. So
Right.
we can talk about. I mean, I'd like to talk about the music business versus the music bullshit. A lot of people are, when they talk about the music labels, a lot of different labels out there, those who will not be named, but there are a lot of music labels out there that will try to shape their artists into something that they're not. And I think, knowing you value authenticity. And I think that's integral to the development of any artist.
Mm-hmm.
How do you maintain their authenticity without limiting their growth as an artist?
um it has to come from them, I think. um they would have to actually want to remain authentic, and you will know that the moment you talk to them. Um, uh, yung isa sa mga methods ng offshore when recruiting artists is to actually talk to them and interview them like you would an employee or someone you want to work with, just to get to know them. And one of the first questions we ask them is, what do you want to happen, or what do you want in your career? What are your goals? And if they say parang, we want to be, for example, gusto namin sumikat, gusto namin lumaki tulad ng E-Heads, ganon, or like you, or some other band, Four of Spades or someone like that. Doon pa lang parang malalaman na namin na, we're not going to be the right label for you. Because first of all, we don't know how to make anyone big. We
Mhm.
just know how to parang support and support the artist and give the artist the home or the proper atmosphere to grow and to excel in what they want to do.
So there's some artists that you've turned away na parang it becomes artist versus artista. So you
Yeah,
are leaning towards the artist and developing the art.
yes, that's what we
Um,
try to do.
so in your past experiences, and I've heard a lot of nightmare stories about music labels and label management on like some of the bands don't even own their own masters. They have no control over the output. They're being told to play in certain places that they don't think is them. um
Yeah.
are there any um set plans, like for example, if you encounter an artist, like for example a reggae artist, um do you already think of your marketing? Do you already think of where you're going to release him? Do you already think of
Well,
what crowd would be good for this?
we do have parang strategies in place na. Like any other label, we come up with a marketing plan, and then when we sign, oh no, actually, sorry, we don't sign anymore. when we distribute or we
Ah,
take the responsibility of marketing an artist, we sort of tailor the marketing to the artist. So, for example, if we signed a band like Pinkman,
mm,
uh, their marketing would be different from an artist like Enamori.
yeah. So there are differences. There are differences between the artists that your marketing strategies are different. But
Yes,
what
yes.
makes them like okay? So you've talked about offshore being a home or a haven for these artists.
Mm-hmm.
Um, how do you make or how do you create that home?
How do I create that
Yeah,
home?
I mean, like basically, do you guys like okay? So let's talk about pre-pandemic, right? Do you guys meet every
Oh,
week? Do you guys share gigs? Because like yeah, we were talking earlier about artists who are signing with you, who think that they're going to be the next
mm.
Eraserheads, and that is
There's nothing
certainly
wrong with that,
yeah. There's nothing wrong with
by
that, but
the way.
that's almost an impossibility
Yeah, I
because they're
can
not
even
the
become the
Eraserheads.
next Eraserheads.
Yeah, because it took four of you.
Yes. Or even the four of us can become the next Eraserheads. You get what I'm saying? But anyway, to get back to your question, offshore is very close knit, as in artists, I talk directly with the artists, I work directly with them. It's not like we have an office somewhere in Makati on the 50th floor that they go to once in a while, to sign contracts or whatever. Not even to sign contracts or just, you know, get free stuff or whatever. We are actively, each and every board member is actively uh, participating in every aspect of the artist's growth. For example, I'm uh, greatly involved in recording, production. Pat Sarabia is also involved in that and marketing, social media, and some of our other partners are have their own sort of expertise in other areas. So yeah, we are very very close knit and a small family, and I think in that way we are sort of a home to these artists because they can
So,
always go to us and you know ask us for advice or anything.
basically, they can message you directly
Oh
and talk to
yes,
you
yes,
directly.
definitely.
You're in
Yeah,
the
yeah.
studio when they are
I'm in
recording
the
their.
studio. Yeah.
How much input do
I
you have?
sometimes mix. I sometimes
You
record
mix.
them. I set up the studio for them. I mix their recordings along with Audrey Hemburns,
I think
Miss
that's
Audrey Hemburns,
Ms. Hemburns.
Miss
I think
Hemburns.
that alone is going to be worth the. I mean, like you have been in so many studios and in so many recording situations where
Mm-hmm.
you can actually predict what they're going to need, what kind of sound. How much input do you have in their sound?
But to be honest, I don't want any input in their sound.
Even when you're
Uh,
asked,
Sorry.
like for example, Ellie, what do you think of this solo?
Well, of course,
That
when I'm asked, I'll give them my opinion. But as much as possible, I try to stay away from their process. Because I'm that kind of a producer, I guess. I just let things happen and only provide the help or input when needed. Because
I can
I've
imagine.
been on the other side of the coin, the fence.
Mhm.
When I was starting out recording, I really did not appreciate even my producers parang sort of being overly involved in any part of the recording or songwriting process. I sort of appreciated Robin Rivera, for example, the E-Heads longtime producer. That was his style. Like his presence alone ensured that there was this sort of yun nga, parang atmosphere of just experimentation and fun and uh, knowledge seeking that he didn't force on us in any way. And when we parang sort of needed to ask him anything, he would be there. So I appreciated that, and now that I'm sort of in that position, I am practicing that philosophy.
So you're giving your artists a certain degree of independence to develop their own sound
That's right.
and
That's right.
discover who they are, basically.
Yes, and well, alam naman natin na these artists kind of know what they want naman eh.
Mm.
So, wag mo na silang pakialaman ng todo-todo. Just let things happen.
And you're there anyway if they need advice. If
Yeah,
they want, hey, hey, Ellie, help me write this song. What do you think of the chorus? You know what I mean? You're there anyway, and I
yeah.
can't think of
If
anybody
if
better to like give advice for that. I mean, come on, you are, like I've said in my intro, man. You're one of the best songwriters of your generation, and it's amazing that for the past 30 years, you never seem to run out of songs. And I love the fact that you are developing new sound. You're discovering new sounds to yourself, and in this age where it's a digital age, inevitably we're listening to a lot of streaming platforms like Spotify and Apple Music, where everything is available by your touch, at your fingertips, right?
uh,
Um, has the digital world killed the analog star? Because in our generation, Ellie, we used to go out and buy cassettes,
mm,
and
mm-hmm,
that no longer is um, an option, especially now during the pandemic. Who can go out, right? But
yeah.
how important, like for example, is radio to you as a record producer, as a record label owner? How important is radio versus these streaming platforms?
Well, they all have their own, I think, strengths. I don't exactly prefer one over the other. Uh, when digital sort of parang blew up, I really appreciated it for what it was and what it offered in terms of convenience in recording, in the consumption of music. It was all very utopian, actually. But then, of course, there's a flip side to everything, and I think one of the parang bad effects of everything going digital and everything being convenient is that it's sort of dime a dozen thing na. Like everyone can just whip out a song in an hour or two and put it out there, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be good the or that people should hear it. But it's just overly saturated now, and um, I think it's bad.
For me personally, I like the randomness of radio in terms of like when you go to the digital platforms, you have to be very specific on what you search for, or
Mm.
and then they learn your algorithm, and then they suggest songs for you. I like the randomness of radio
Wait.
because
Are we talking about the same thing? Parang hindi ko
mm,
naintindihan yata yung question.
yeah,
Radio versus the internet?
radio versus the internet, like your online streaming platforms versus the randomness of radio. Like radio, when you get into your car,
Radio. Ah, okay.
radio
Uh,
when you get into your
well,
car
yeah,
on the
the internet has not supplanted naman radio, I think. 'Di ba? It hasn't. Meron pa
okay.
rin ibang charm yung radio. And as a matter of fact, I still get, very excited and get goosebumps when I hear my song first played on the radio, or uh, offshore artist songs being played on the radio. As a matter of fact, we make it a point na lahat ng bagong singles ng offshore artists are debuted on radio first.
Fantastic. I mean, that's why the charm of radio, I think, will never go away, simply
It
because
never
it's
will.
it's the randomness of it. When you get into your car, or you're walking through a mall, or you're in a restaurant, and they've got a radio, a station tuned in, and you hear a song for the first time. It's different when you randomly hear it and when you specifically search for it. And that would be
Mm-hmm.
my case, radio versus internet. But going back
Okay,
into
yeah.
analog, when you're going to record stores back in the past, searching for that one album or that cassette and all that, you've taken it one step further, and you are actually championing the vinyl movement. I've seen you
Yeah.
guys on in all the record store days,
Mm-hmm.
and I immediately go broke because I'm just trying
Mm-hmm.
to buy all the records up. But you are championing the the vinyl movement with
Oh
Offshore.
yeah, definitely, definitely.
And why
Um,
is that? Why vinyl? Why specifically vinyl?
so we're just a bunch of people who kind of are into vinyl. We love vinyl. Um, we we grew up with vinyl. Like I myself, when I was a kid, we had my family had a collection of 45s. Where the first time I was exposed to OPM with artists like Rico J. Puno, Jumedes Maturan, which are all my mom's favorites. Apo, Juan de la Cruz, you name it. I heard it on vinyl first, and there was a time when when digital was the thing that everyone thought na it's a lost world na talaga, that old analog world of the 33 speed record. But then something magical happened, which is I think one of the sources of great happiness for me when the news came out na slowly but surely vinyl was uh, sort of making a comeback. And that was a time na, yun nga, I was slowly getting into parang going back to my roots music that I grew up listening to nga, like Pinoy soul.
Mm.
And that's the time I was writing songs for Apartel. And that was the time of the resurgence of vinyl. So it all came together, and then we sort of formed Offshore, and it was a no-brainer that the first product we wanted to put our music, the first format, pala, sorry, we wanted to put our music out in was vinyl.
So the vinyl movement, I mean, it's different when you listen to vinyl. I remember growing up with vinyl, but that was my parents' thing. So I'm a cassette boy. My
Yeah, yeah.
musical life started out with
A-track.
cassette. Hindi naman
Naabutan mo ba
8-track.
yung A-track?
Naubos ko yung 8-track, pero wala akong collection ng
Mas cool
8-track.
yun eh.
Oo. Pero yung collection ng
Oo.
cassette ko, eventually had to migrate into CDs. So I remember
Mm,
when CDs were becoming a thing, and going
mm.
back to my collection and having to buy all the albums that I loved from
Yeah,
on
yeah.
cassette, going to
Ako
buy it
rin,
on
ako rin.
CD, and then eventually I rediscovered vinyl as well, and it really is a different world when you put the needle down
Mhm.
on a record, and you have to sit through the entire side A, and then you have to actually
Oo,
get and flip the record
yeah,
and side B. And I think it demands a more active
actually,
listening
yeah,
process from the
yeah.
listener.
That's what
Um,
I meant when I was saying somehow digital has kind of ruined the experience of music. Because of the convenience of it, like you just press a button or you can carry like 1,000 or more than 5,000 millions of songs in your phone. Whereas with vinyl, you really have to take time and set aside Like, so don't make any plans. If you want to enjoy your music, you have to set up your sound system, buy food or snacks, for example, if you want to go through it like from side A to side B na dire-diretso. Like really experience the music and sit down and it's sort of similar to meditating. You have to set aside time talaga.
Mm.
You can't be like working out. Well, you can, but I don't know anyone who works out to vinyl.
That's true. I don't know anybody who works out with vinyl. We have a question here from Charlie Loretta. Who are the other artists that will be released on the Offshore label? Will their albums be on vinyl also? Well, Ellie just mentioned that primarily they're pushing for a vinyl release for all their artists. And see that glow in that glow behind you in the light is fantastic. There we go.
Thank you,
Yeah,
thank you.
there you go.
Yeah.
Um,
Any artists?
what
We have
artist?
plans. We have plans of releasing uh, everyone actually in the Offshore catalog on vinyl. So let's just keep our fingers crossed that it happens soon.
And you're the only record label that's actually doing that.
Well, not really. A lot of
Right, you're the
labels
only
right
ones
now who are,
taking the time
huh?
to master. You guys are the only ones taking the time to master it for vinyl.
Oh
Because a lot
yeah,
of,
yeah.
I mean, I've heard some vinyl releases of other OPM acts, and they haven't been mastered. For it's a different process.
It is.
Master.
It's a different process, but it's part. It's a non-negotiable. I think non-negotiable part of the process. I mean, uh, you have to master it for vinyl, otherwise it's gonna sound shitty.
It's not gonna sound if you use a CD master for vinyl, it's not gonna
Yes,
sound. There's
yes.
way too much compression. There's no air. There's. I mean, that's what I love about
Mm-hmm.
vinyl. You can hear the room that they recorded in.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's another element when when you're mastering music for vinyl. You have to take into consideration the room that you recorded in, the air that's there, and
Exactly.
yeah. So Charlie Loretta keeps on commenting. Grundman remastered the Eraserheads album. Yes, that's I think that is a huge move in terms of doing it right. I think, and that's a great initiative from Offshore to actually
Mm-hmm.
take the time to master it for vinyl and release it for vinyl for in this year alone. I've read articles about vinyl outselling CDs for the first time, and that's I think
And not
fantastic.
just no, not just the E-Heads vinyl, also Apartel.
Mm.
Full Flood was mastered by Bernie Grunman for vinyl.
And
It's
that's
not cheap though.
I can imagine because it's not your usual technology. I mean, everything is cheaper now
Yeah.
because it's digital. So to go back and to retask these machines, are there any mastering or pressing plants here in Manila for
No,
vinyl?
no, there are none.
So they've all shut down because yeah, it's
They were
there's
a long, long time ago. Yeah.
a long, long
In the
time
time
ago.
of the dinosaurs.
So you were talking about Apartel and how the Apartel album is coming out. It's been released on vinyl as well, and
Hmm.
the sound is appropriate for the vinyl release. What made you think of going funk in the Apartel? Because it's such a departure. If we chart your musical journey, this is certainly quite unexpected. And really, Apartel is one of my favorite incarnations of you in terms of your musical journey. But what made you think of funk? What made you think of Motown and Stax and a horn section? You know, what made you think of
Yeah.
going that direction?
Well, unang-una, if you think about it, I've never really strayed from soul or R&B or funk. If you
Mhm.
listen to the whole E-Heads catalog, you're going to hear funk in there. A
Yeah,
lot of funk. You're going to hear a lot of soul. Well, me trying to sing soul, but you get what I mean, right? Um, it's in our DNA. Me, my bandmates, we loved funky music. We loved Motown, Stevie Wonder, Marvin Gaye, Sly, and it was pretty much evident in the music. And that's why I said na parang I'm just going back to my roots with the Partel. Only this time, it's really overt uh,
Yes, it's more
na
pronounced.
funk talaga, including the instrumentation. Like there's horns, there's backup singers, uh, and the arrangements, the songwriting, it's all there. But it's a more of a pure funk and soul approach to music. Now, otherwise, nung time ko, even in Pupil, you'll hear
Yeah, yeah. You
some
had
soul sounds in there.
it wasn't
Yeah,
as pronounced. There were some
it wasn't
sounds,
as
but
pronounced. Yeah,
apartel was a deliberate choice to
it
make it
was.
over.
It was. Uh,
And with apartel, I mean it's certainly dancing music. I've been dancing all week to your apartel music, and really, pre-loved just gets me like I want to take my clothes
oh,
off and take it in the apartment. But with
that's great.
apartel, when you choose your sound and you choose your name for your band, it determine an identity.
Yeah, I guess Apartel is one of those bands that I think was really parang I was consciously molding an image, an idea, a concept of a band more than ever before. That's why uh, I can say na in the strictest sense, this is the most pure I've gotten in terms of making music. Um, Sorry, I trailed off. Ano ulit yung tanong?
No, I mean if it doesn't establish an identity in terms of
Oh
when you
yeah,
choose a
yeah.
band name and you choose your sound, it established an identity. So you were just saying that you had to mold this band
Yeah, I
into
had to consciously mold it. Mm.
and
So Apartel is the name, of course, was inspired by. It wasn't a soul band, but it was inspired by the Motels, an
mm,
'80s band, and it's sort of parang it evokes something a little bit mysterious, a little bit naughty. That's what we were going for with the name.
certainly naughty because I mean you had we all know what the apartels are used for.
Yeah.
There's a whole row of them in Mandaluyong.
Mm. Mm.
So in that sense, with because I've seen you, I've not only listening to the album, but I've seen you play with apartel, and it looks like you are having the most fun that I've ever seen you
Uh-huh.
live. But
Uh-huh.
with compared to all your bands that I've seen you play in one form or another with all your
Mm.
bands, it seems like in Uppertel you're having the most fun. And is it
Right,
because that's
right.
something that you're getting back to your roots?
That's part of it, yeah. But it's mostly kasi the music. The music itself is fun. I mean,
Yeah.
you said so yourself. You can't stop, dancing when you hear "Be Loved." And when I sing those songs, I mean, it's liberating, basically.
So do you ever like are you going to eventually when live gigs get back, my dream is to have all you guys like choreographed like the Temptations. You
Oh
guys
yeah,
need
that, that's
choreography in zoot suits. I mean, you're already in suits, right?
that's where we kind of sort of sat down and drew the line na parang, okay, we can't pull that off. We can't, you know, do choreographed dancing.
Yeah, but I think it's part of the charm. I mean, when you
It
see
is
these
part
old
of the charm. But,
of the
maybe if direct us, pwede.
I'm gonna take you up on that. No, you can't flash no choreographed dancing for Apartel. He just said if I directed, I'm gonna be able to give you a great
Sure, man.
choreography.
Sure. You're welcome. You're welcome to do
I
it.
think when you watch old, the Stax videos and the Motown videos,
Mm-hmm.
um, how they took it on the road, and how it was such a production. It was such an amazing feeling when, I mean, you're doing so many things. You're playing your
Yeah.
instruments, you're
Mm.
singing, you're following the arrangements, and at the same time you have to remember choreography. It's almost like a form of musical theater in a sense.
It is. It
And
is.
I would love to see you dancing. I would love to see Nitoy dancing.
Oh, you already did, sort of.
Yeah, sort of, but it's different when you're all
Uh,
choreographed,
Choreograph
and
talaga. No?
it
Yeah.
just lends itself to it. I think that
Yeah.
would complete
That's true.
the the vibe in terms of
Mm-hmm.
apartheid. Um,
Yeah.
and okay, so Apartel started out as a collaboration, right? And you have
Mm-hmm.
been busy with collaborations during. I mean, you've had a few releases, uh, not 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 least, but not not the least to say, the Plunder My Heart with the Cheats. You've been doing a lot of collaborations. There's a curious case of the collaborations in terms of an artist of your stature reaching out to bands, wanting to collaborate with them. I must say, Plunder My Heart is quite amazing because when I first heard that, and that's your collaboration with the Cheats,
Cheats.
I Cheats, sorry, no, the Cheats.
No,
Okay, okay. When I first heard Plunder My Heart, I didn't know what to make of it. It triggered a lot of emotions. It triggered a lot of memories for me. I had to listen to it for a week
oh,
before
yeah.
actually coming to grips with it, because there's some days where I'm like, where the hell are we going, you know but collaborations, what do you look for in a collaboration? I mean, I'm sure a lot of musicians out there would love to write a song with you, to record a song with you, to play a song with you. So what do you look for
What do I
in
look for?
collaborator?
I guess, to put it simply, dapat syempre kasundo ko yung artist, pareho kami ng wavelength, all that. Those are the sort of basic requirements for me to contemplate working with someone. I have to like their work, of
Mm.
course, and uh, I've worked with people na um, I don't even have an idea uh, what the outcome will be. It's just that parang, I have a good feeling about this. This could work. So let's do it. Parang ganun lang.
So have you had collaborations where you sit down with a guy and you're like, oh, this guy is not for me? uh I mean, I'm sure there
No, no.
there I mean, with musicians, you have egos involved, you have a different vision in terms of the outcome, in a sense.
Yeah,
How do
yeah.
you I mean, have you encountered
Eh,
people that you've sat
pa,
down with and said, di tayo bagay, pare, you know
well, if you put it that way, I guess you're saying down the line, do things like that happen sa
yeah.
collaborations ko? Of course. Parang it's inevitable. If you work with someone long enough, uh, magkakaroon na ng friction or difference of opinion, difference of goals, and that happens all the time in any partnership.
Mm.
It's just a matter of how soon it happens, But on the outset, when I start to work with someone, it's always parang good naman. Uh, there's no difficulty when I work with people I decided to work with. It's only after siguro when things have died down or the excitement has died down or years have passed and syempre kanya-kanya na ng plano yan sa buhay.
Mm.
And that leads to syempre disagreements.
Are you a confrontational person when that happens?
Uh, no, but I'm trying to be. I I've just recently parang learned that not confronting things and or people does not do any good for me for or for anyone.
Yeah, because I mean,
I've
you seem like a very steady guy, and I can't
mhm,
imagine you like. I mean, now losing your temper or being confrontational. But I can
mhm.
imagine in any relationship, and that's what it is when you're in a collaboration or when you have band members and you're forming a band, right? Inevitably, yeah, you have disagreements, and if you don't
Yeah.
confront it or nip it at the bud early on, then it gets into
Mhm.
bigger
I guess
confrontations.
yeah, I guess it comes I guess with age. If you played the game long enough, parang you know what works and you know what doesn't work. There was a time na parang I absolutely did not believe in talking about and sitting down and meeting about stuff and hashing out stuff with my bandmates kasi I sort of had this ideal na anything like discussed or spoken about parang it defeats the purpose of the I guess the art of it. Na
Mhm.
parang we there was a time that we didn't even like want to like write a set list because yun nga we were uh, we believed in this philosophy na dapat spontaneous lahat and
Mhm.
dapat walang pinag-usapan, and the same also goes with anything na has to do with the business side or anything that has to be reconciled in terms of disagreements sa direction of the band or the music. And for a long time, it worked that way. And well, of course, you know what happened. Uh, your
We'll come
band or
around.
whatever, it will come
Yeah.
around and bite you in the ass, you know.
Yeah.
And I've learned my lesson. Now I confront people or anyone not because I want to fight them. It's because I want to work things out and not just in my professional life, also in my personal life.
Yeah, I mean, that's always good. If you're quiet all the time, nothing will really get fixed because,
Right, right.
if we hear your point of view, then we think that our point of view is just okay and we keep on going. Um,
That's right.
and, with your collaborations, the Plunder My Heart was incredible, but, your other collaborations, specifically with the Itchy Worms, I particularly love because, I mean, you when you are doing something that you love, and that's why we love doing music and doing art and what we do. When you are collaborating with the Itchy Worms, I'm sure. I mean, if I would have loved to be a fly on the wall to see that process,
Mhm.
because those are basically really
We would
fun,
notice you if you were a fly on the wall.
really big fly on the wall. It seems like the Itchy Worms. It's so much fun to just not
They
even
are. They are.
collaborate, but to hang out with.
Yeah.
Uh,
It's
your
funny.
your collaborations with them, like Pariwara and specifically also your most recent one, your Malinaw na
Malinaw na
Malabo na,
malabo na tayo. Oh.
which when I first heard, the hook just amazed me, and the amount of musicianship that's in that group must have been. How do you decide on an idea? You have five really talented people, trying to write a song. How does that even happen? Because I'm sure
Yeah,
everybody's going on different directions. How do you settle on this is the song?
yeah,
Specifically
it's
with the issue.
funny. Yeah, yeah. The Itchworms. The first time I met them, uh, I was still with the E heads, and they were parang just starting out, and I met them because they wanted to sort of do a demo at my apartment. And I remember when I first worked with them, I was really, really, really annoyed with them because they had so much energy and everything to them was funny. So they were
Mm.
laughing all the time without even being high. So that to me was really, really annoying. And after a while, I kind of said, "Oh, I'm not gonna work with these guys again. They're too much for me." Okay, so flash forward a few years, a lot of years, pala, decades later, and I've witnessed how far they've come since that day. How masterful their songwriting became. I became a fan over time. I really, really admired their sense of, I guess, camaraderie and brotherhood. And I always admired that. That until now, when I see them, they're the epitome of a band talaga that is a four-headed monster. Na parang they're one and the same. I don't. They're just, it just happens once in a while na a band just really gets along with each other and uh, nothing really negative happens between them and they just set out to write really really good music and kind of admire that and envied also. So yeah, when I got the chance to work with them, I wasn't really surprised that everything was effortless. Na parang I would suggest things and they would immediately get it. I would send a demo and then the next day tapos na yung kanta. I would write a melody, for example, or just write a verse with a melody, and they'd finish the song as if uh, as if they wrote the original melody, and it was so parang fulfilling and satisfying to just parang get rid of all that bullshit when it comes to collaborating that I've been so exposed to and accepted as the norm for a long time, and just focus on writing good music and having fun at the same time.
Yeah, because I mean, they're still the same. They're still makulit.
They still
Still,
are.
they still laugh a little bit too much,
Yeah,
even
just
seryoso na
fatter.
yung usapan. Just fatter. Well, we're all fatter. Not you,
We're all
but we're
fatter.
all fatter.
No, I'm fat. I'm fat,
And that's
and
the
there's
beauty.
nothing wrong with fat. I'm just
There's
saying,
nothing wrong with fat.
I love
There's
fat.
just more of
Fat
us to
is
love, right?
cool. Fat is cute. I love fat.
And the beauty of the issue worms is that essentially they just haven't changed. When
They
I met them
haven't.
years and years ago, they're just as kulit today, except that they've just gotten better at what they do.
Yeah,
And I,
and
I
they're
have to,
funnier. Funnier,
they're
definitely.
funnier, and they're even actually
Way
more.
funnier than the first time I met them.
Oh, Chino, you're on the thread. Are you listening to that? Oh, yan, triple
Mhm.
heart si Chino. Dyan. And they're very makulit, but at the same time, I think the beauty of this collaboration, these collaborations that you've had with them, um, you can really sense not only the musicality behind it, but also that sense of fun
Mhm.
in terms of the process. It really comes out because I mean, when you have a tedious collaborative process or a tedious
Yeah.
recording process, it does come out in the music. And even if it's such a serious song that you put out, right?
Mhm.
The sense of fun still comes out. And I think that's important because it whatever goes into the process of creating the music will come out in the finished product. Do you believe in that?
I
When
do.
you're going through a heartbreak and you're writing, you can't write a happy song. When you've just gotten
Mm.
your heart broken. And I
Mm.
think the beauty of the itchy worms is that they just wear their they are who they are. And
Mhm.
take it or not, you have to be ready for them because when they're all in a room together, it's just insane. You want to call
Artists sila, hindi
security.
sila artista.
Correct. There we go. They're artists and not artistas. And sometimes straddling both worlds ain't bad either. I think they have a good head on
Mhm.
their shoulders in terms of what their art is and what their artista I guess, responsibilities are. I mean, you got to promote your album. You got to come out in shows. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? And they're okay to do it because that's who they are. It's part of who they are. Now, okay, so itchy worms are a lot of fun. How was the process with Francis M?
It's sort of,
Collaborating with Kiko.
yeah, it's sort of the same actually. Uh, the first time I met Francis, I was immediately struck by how how grounded he was, and how kind he was, and how generous. I remember nasa ABS-CBN kami noon. Parang first time namin on TV actually.
Mm.
I don't know what show it was, ASAP or something. We were like in the corridor just standing there, and he approached us uh, carrying a CD of Ultra. It just came out, the first album. And he asked for an autograph. And syempre, me being me, trying to be pa cool, I said, sure, what's your name? And then he laughed. He laughed, and then from that point on, we were friends, and we were really close. And so, parang working with him, parang it's just you know, you're working with your brother or whoever, your best friend. It just everything just falls into place.
If you had the opportunity for more collaborations, I mean, I mean, you hung out with Pepe Smith.
Oh yeah,
Did, did you get it? Oh yeah, yeah. That's a lot of stories right there. Hanging out with Pepe.
yeah, I
It's
did, I did.
I mean, like if you go into all the iconic people in Pinoy rock, right? You've had the opportunity to hang out with them, and
Mm-hmm,
if you could make Francis M, if you can make Kiko laugh, I've collaborated with him on some videos and I've acted for
mm-hmm.
him. And the one thing I love about Francis is that he just makes you feel completely at home.
Exactly. Yeah,
You have, I mean, and then when you see him live, you see the passion, you see the fierceness of him and all that. And as soon as
yeah,
he gets on
yeah.
stage, he's the most quiet guy in the world.
Most
And
quiet,
direct,
most humble.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And he's so down to earth, and he doesn't take stock of his
Mm,
celebrity, which is I've
doesn't.
noted something in a similarity in you as well. The few times that we have hung out, you don't take a lot of stock into your celebrity, but I'm sure the celebrity factor has opened a lot of
Mm,
doors in that
mm-hmm.
sense, for you. And being the celebrity, what are the drawbacks in that celebrity? Are you able to go into a McDonald's and line up for a cheeseburger? Are you
Yes,
able to go
I
into a national
yes, yes.
bookstore and you
On
don't get
on most on most days, people don't recognize me, naman. Yeah,
well, especially now with the
like
pandemic with your mask on,
yeah,
it must help.
like 4 out of 5 times, I get recognized, but that one time, it happens also. Yeah.
And how does that make you feel? I mean, I know it's a necessary, evil in terms of dealing with fans and people recognizing you. But can you go out and have a quiet dinner?
I
Are
can
there
if it just takes a lot of no like planning and a lot of I guess hiding.
hiding?
Because I'm the kind of person na parang I didn't want to accept, and I still don't accept na I should give up my, the things I enjoy in my life, my personal life,
Hmm.
just because I was in a successful band, kind of hard headed that way. A lot of people keep telling me na parang no, you can't be like that. You can't just say anything on Twitter anymore because it's you come with a lot of baggage, and I know that, but I refuse to accept it, and it's really not out of a sense of, I guess, rebelliousness on my part. It's more of parang I want to treat people equally,
Hmm.
and that's why I want that back from them. It's like I'll treat you the way I used to treat my other people when I became, this well-known guy. So sana naman, I'm expecting you also to treat me like a normal person. I know it's kind of a weird thing to think about, but
Well,
these are
inevitably,
things I have to come to terms with. Yeah.
inevitably, when you do go out, right? Fighting for your private life in terms of
Mm.
your public life and being able to speak your mind I think, is integral to being an artist. And
Right.
if
Right.
you start buying into the celebrity, then you cease to be yourself. So I really
Exactly.
do appreciate you fighting for. Yeah, I want to say I want to say whatever I want to say on Twitter, whether it be a popular opinion or an unpopular opinion. It's your opinion, and therefore should be valid because everybody's entitled to their opinion. What are
Hmm.
your pet peeves in terms of dealing with the celebrity?
Pet peeves.
Yeah, like
Uh,
when you go into a restaurant for dinner, and inevitably, I bet they play Eraserhead's music. How
yeah.
do you feel?
Well, I guess it depends on my mood at the time. I'm a
Okay.
very moody person, so there are times when it just annoys the hell out of me, and there are times when I just parang go along with it. And okay, the most I can do is parang just ignore it and go on with my business.
Mm.
And on bad days, I actually like ask the waiter or whoever to stop the music or change it.
What other things have you encountered that you are definitely not in favor of in terms of the celebrity? I've
Oh,
I've s- I've seen you go through a mob of people and stop for a photograph with each and every person with a smile on your face. I've also seen you go through a mob of
mhm,
people that I gotta get somewhere, or else my car is gonna leave me and I can't stop for photographs.
yeah, yeah.
How do you deal with when do you stop for photographs and when do you not?
I have a simple rule when I'm working, as in if it's I'm in a show or whatever. When I'm working, I mean I can be very accommodating. I mean I accept it as part of the business. Like
Yeah.
uh, if you want a photo, if you want an autograph, you can interrupt me. Even when I'm talking with my friends and I'm in at a venue, for example. Of course, I won't say no because I'm in work mode, but I also have this sort of uh, other life which I am very protective of, and yeah, those are the times na parang it gets to be really it's an effort to kind of please everybody.
So I guess there's a time and place.
That's what I'm
For
saying. Yeah, there's a time and place for me lang.
that,
Ah.
yeah.
The thing is, the fans don't think in terms of time and place. If they see you, they see you. You know what I
Yes.
mean?
It's an
So I have
opportunity.
to
Opportunity
yeah, I
to
have
cross
to
the wall.
work
You
around
know,
that.
and that has that been difficult at your peak when the Eraserheads became a household name and you're all over MTV and everybody knew what you looked like, going from relative anonymity to that
No,
all
I
of
mean, yeah, during that time, I think it wasn't that hard for me because uh, at least I kind of wanted it. I did set out to become famous.
Mhm.
I wanted to become successful in a successful band, but those days are over, man. I'm 50 years old, and I'm not that guy anymore. And it's just hard when people want you to remain that guy when they meet you, and kind of an existential crisis actually every time that happens because parang oh, you're just doing this because you love the music that I wrote 30 years ago with sentiments that probably I don't even believe in now, and it's just hard, to be someone that you're not anymore,
Yeah.
and that's kind of a bummer if you think about it, because I always parang regret, for example, turning down a fan, especially in a very, very, uh, should we say, brusque manner. Uh, a few minutes later, parang, oh, shit, I shouldn't have said that, or I shouldn't have done that. I'm sorry, but that's life.
It happens.
It happens. Yeah.
Well, in terms of like, okay, so talking about like how you've written music that's 30 years old and the person you were 30 years ago, I'm gonna go into um, your music, your band, basically, that you released before Apartel, which is the Octaves. And I gotta say, I think that's my favorite of all your incarnations because that's the. I mean, I'm a classic rock guy, and that's
Labo
the
mo,
music.
Jamie. Sabi mo kanina, Apartel favorite mo eh.
Oh, well, okay. So favorites. Okay,
Oo,
Apartel with
oh, ano.
sides to me. I have two sides to me. May mga mood ako na sumasayaw ako. Pero
Yan.
Octaves kasi has the angas eh. It has that libog and that angas of a classic style rock and roll that I
Mm,
absolutely, I mean, speaks to me because I mean I'm a Rolling Stones fan, I'm a Doors fan,
mm,
I'm a classic rock fan, and when you released Octaves, um, that really spoke to me more than any of your incarnations in a sense because that spoke the deepest to me. But what blew my mind,
uh-huh.
I was listening to it. I was re-listening to it, before I interviewed you, and what you listen to your releases, your popular releases, and your singles and all that. But what really killed me is that because I made it a deliberate effort to listen it from beginning to the end of the album, and I think it might have been the first time I ever heard Olivia, which is a country western song. I could imagine you playing that in Nashville and being quite at home with the country western music people. And that is so unexpected in terms of when you listen to the beginning of the album, you have the angas, you have the libog, you have the rock and roll style. I mean, it sounds like you guys are having so much fun. And for me, it sounded dangerous. And then when Olivia came on, which blew my mind because it's like, oh my God, this is a country western song. How
Mm.
did that come about? In all in picking songs and choosing music for the album, how did a country western song come about all of a sudden with you guys with the Octaves?
Okay. Well, at the risk of sounding repetitious, Jamie, kanina sabi ko, di ba, parang soul has always been a part of my
Yeah,
DNA.
yeah.
And it's folk and country as well, actually. I mean, I
Okay.
grew up listening to, soft rock. My cousins
Mm,
would make me listen to America, like Seals and Crofts,
mhm.
Simon and Garfunkel. So that has always been also my kind of thing. And the way Octaves came about was, I think a friend of mine gave me. Uh, there was a time that this was after Pupil, and I've parang sort of uh, done everything I could with the modern rock style, and I was looking again to parang ika nga ng Beatles, get back,
Mm. Go
to
back.
something, yeah, to your roots, to something pure. And a friend of mine handed me this book about Elvis, a biography. It's called Last Train to Memphis.
Mm.
And the thing that struck me most was this was parang I never even realized how country was deeply parang connected to rock and rock and roll was deeply connected to punk, and
Yes.
punk to modern rock pop.
Yeah.
And it was an eye opener for me. Na Elvis parang grew up in Tennessee, Memphis.
Hmm.
He's a country guy.
Yeah.
He played country music and he
Yeah.
loved country music.
Yeah.
So that was one of the inspirations for me when I was writing, and when we were parang sort of forming octaves,
Mm.
and it was parang great that I found this super amazing bandmates like Hilera and Toy Adriano, who kind of shared and basically knew where I was coming from. And it was one of the most fulfilling also collaborations in my career. I'm pretty proud of that album, and of course that song Olivia. I'm proud of also, which I co-wrote pala with Aldous
Mm.
Santos, who is also parang into folk music right now with Pamphleteer.
Ah, so that's a nice
Yeah.
connect there. That's a nice
Yeah, yeah.
going to, like, if you talk to talking about like Elvis. I'm a big Elvis fan as well. In terms of his country music and his gospel influences and how he straddled the two and created
Yes, yo.
rock and
Yeah,
roll,
yeah, yeah.
you know, with his hip swaying, and he was dangerous. I do get that same feel with the octaves music because it's dangerous. It's not something that is. It didn't feel safe at all, but it felt like
Yes.
your safe zone. It felt like, when now talking to you now, thinking about how you're going back to your roots. I
Uh,
never would have thought that you would do music like that, and especially the country song was just a wow. That was left field. I fell off my chair listening to it. But listening to the octaves, I never thought that you would go down that route. And thank God, whoever gave you that Elvis biography should be thanked, because I love this album, and I'm really hoping for another one. You know,
so am
it's
I. So am I.
it's funny because like when you so we're gonna go keep on going back in time, right? Now
Mm.
from the octaves, and then we go into Pupil, and I gotta say, Pupil is the least of my favorite incarnations of you, because I still felt like I heard you struggling to define yourself, away from the Eraserheads, and inevitably, as a member of the listening public, that was also my perception. You okay, the Eraserheads is banded, and you're coming out with Mongols was down and dirty, and then Pupil came out, and Pupil had a hard time, I think, gaining traction in terms of charting and getting your music out there, because basically people were still comparing you to the Eraserheads and expecting the Eraserheads out of you. How did you break that? How did you break out of that? Because eventually, I mean, Pupil went on to, write some amazing songs. And eventually, after Beautiful Machines, you came into your own identity without the comparison to the Eraserheads. How did you, was that a deliberate break on your part? I don't want to sound like the Eraserheads.
Of course, definitely it was. Um, it was a very conscious effort, and the I think the thing was parang it just came out. I just came from probably the most recognizable sound in Philippine music, and then all of a sudden I decided to go at it again. I could have just did what I was doing, but then uh, to me it felt like I was cheating because I knew naman that I was capable of more, or if not more, something more interesting or something different. And different to me, I kind of that's my philosophy basically. It's not to repeat yourself. That's the way I survived in this industry. Uh, I like subverting expectations, and if that doesn't go well with the fans or whoever, tough luck, because that's the only way I could have gone forward. So Pupil, at the beginning was sure it was really a conscious effort to parang get away from the shadow of the e-heads, which was uh, almost impossible, and it was really hard,
You're the
really
voice.
hard.
Yeah, you're the
Yeah,
voice.
I remember there were times when we had gigs in the provinces, and uh, Pupil had gigs in the provinces, and we would arrive at the airports and ride the motorcade, and I would see banners uh, announcing Ely Buendia of the Razorheads and no Pupil whatsoever on the banners. It was really disheartening, and um, I would say it was even harder to uh, to break through than when I was a nobody, because there was this huge wall that I had to climb over. But then parang I decided I can just burrow underneath that wall, or go
Or
around that wall.
yeah, or climb.
Um, no one ever said I had to destroy or break down that wall. It's going to be there even after I'm gone. So I just set out to parang I just focused on writing as honestly and authentically as I could.
I think that's what's important in the life of an artist, especially the long-lived artist like you, in all your incarnations. It's funny because when you compare, and inevitably people will compare from Eraserheads to Upper Talent, all everything you've done in between, right?
Mm.
There are people who will want to retain their idea of you as
Mm-hmm.
as the front man of Eraserheads, and there are people who
Yeah.
would actually go with you on your different journeys. But I think
Mm-hmm.
that unwillingness to compromise and a deliberate choice to actually get out from under the shadow of the Eraserheads was a natural occurrence, but you not breaking that wall, like you said, you can burrow under that wall, you can climb over that wall, you can go around that wall, and you have
Mm.
taken it with you even in your solo endeavors. In your live sets you will inevitably play your choice of Eraserheads music or anything else in your catalog, so it's just
Mm.
giving you choices instead of blowing up that wall and
Mm.
declaring you've actually taken it forward with you in terms of your new incarnations. So inevitably, we're going to get into the Razorheads, right? With Pupil, and I've got to confess this to you, when the Razorheads first came out, ladies and gentlemen, and don't crucify me for this, Ellie, don't crucify me for this. I never actually liked your voice. I am a hard rock guy. I listen to the Doors, and in terms of local bands, Razorback and all that, and I never actually liked your voice when you first came out. I found it. Your songwriting was excellent. The musicality was excellent, and it's just a matter of like when you ask a rocker to choose between the Beatles and the Stones. I'm a Stones person, and you were obviously a Beatles person. And these are just stuff that I couldn't sing. I'm a singer myself, so these are things that I couldn't sing, and I never liked your voice until later on in your career when I start listening to your all you know to your when I started rediscovering the Eraserheads. That's the only time I really fell in love with the way you sang, but more specifically when you sang it live, not in the original recordings, but when you would sing it live. Your phrasing, your falsetto, that's when I fell in love with the way you sang. But inevitably Eraserheads was never on my radar in terms of I have to buy that album. I was confident that the album would always be there, right? But going to the Eraserheads, when you started discovering your voice, because we've heard how your voice has changed, how did you develop your own voice in terms because you have a very unique voice in terms of singers we can run the gamut of like how many singers, but you have a very unique voice. What what were your influences in terms of a singer, not in songwriting but as a singer? How did you get that voice?
I really don't know, man. I mean, my mom gave it to me. Uh,
Would she ask
well,
you to sing it? sing along to the records, you know?
Well, I sang a lot according to her when I was a kid. I would actually parang sing her to sleep. So
Wow.
baliktad, I would put her to sleep with my singing. Uh, so I guess that's why I kind of grew up thinking I had a great voice. Thanks,
No,
mom. Uh,
which which you do. I mean, I think it's funny because
no,
listening
no,
to
yeah. I no, I I agree with you that I myself can't bear to listen to my voice until now, and
really,
especially during the first I think first two albums. Uh, Although at that time, nga, like I was saying, I kind of thought, oh, I can sing, so it doesn't matter. I mean, I can carry a tune. I don't go. I'm not pitchy. Di naman ako sintonado. But the thing was the quality of the voice. I think is an acquired an acquired taste, and
yeah.
uh, there was also I think sort of the mindset I was in during the first few years of the E-heads na parang um, I think the songwriting will parang clear me of any crimes in the singing department. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean,
Sort of
you've
thought
always
na
you guys have always stated that you guys started writing original songs because you suck covering songs.
yeah, exactly. So parang all our efforts were put into experimentation and just being innovative in terms of songwriting and recording and then further on na lang that I noticed na parang I kind of should have sang this in a different way. It would have sounded better, and that's how I feel about the ultra electromagnetic pop album. And I've always parang said na parang if I had a chance, I would re-record that album and sing it the way it should have sung.
The way you
Um,
developed your song, your voice now, or the
yes,
voice you
yes.
heard in your head back then,
Or
which
just
you could not
parang kahit
use.
yung mga kahit yung phrasing, even the phrasing was all wrong. Parang I never even put any thought into the phrasing. Kaya parang I it's just something that I never really parang considered and worked on, and until now, I mean, I guess I'm kind of conscious na lang that I just say things or sing words clearly, and that I as if I can avoid doing a falsetto, I will, stuff like that.
I love your falsetto though. It's a you know, you have two kinds of falsettos, and I mean, I'm a singer myself, and my falsetto, I can't do a clean falsetto. It's a power falsetto from the rock, and that's the only way I can reach those notes. You have developed when I've seen you live so many times, and you have actually developed your own. You have a clean falsetto and you have a dirty falsetto, and that's actually very difficult to do.
A
In terms
dirty
of,
falsetto?
yeah, a dirty falsetto, a falsetto with texture, not clean like the pop singers like, oh, the clean note.
Uh-huh. Uh,
You have a clean falsetto and a dirty falsetto, which is actually difficult to do, and you have developed this wail, this rock wail, that has the amount of texture that you didn't have early in the days. How
mm.
did you? Was it just something that happened when when you kept on gigging, or is it something that you deliberately went to discover in terms of your
No,
vocal?
I guess when I had my circumcision when I turned 30, that's when it all changed for me.
That's when all the
So
pipes open.
that was a good decision.
No, I mean, like, so with you as a singer, and you being the front man, and we're still talking about the Eraserheads days, right? I mean, you guys were definitely living life in the fast lane. You guys had all these doors open to you. Basically, you could do no wrong. I mean, your first single Parico, you were making Mura on the radio, and that was already an achievement back in those days. When you're making Mura on the radio, that was fantastic. But what other crazy things did you guys do at the peak of your popularity in the radio? Did you trash any hotel rooms?
Yes,
Did
we did,
you
but not
did
on
you
purpose.
what do you mean not on purpose?
Not on purpose. We weren't aware we were trashing the hotel room until the next morning when we woke up and we saw everything was like in shambles. Yeah,
Did you take advantage of all the groupies back in the day?
I'm not proud of it, but that's part of it.
It's part of the life. I mean,
Yeah, it's
hey,
part of the
it's
life.
part of the life.
I
I mean, if
wouldn't
you're a
I
rock
wouldn't
star,
yeah, I would say though that it's not taking I wouldn't say taking advantage
okay.
because we're gentlemen, we
At the
don't
end of the day,
force
you're a
yeah,
rock star, but
we don't force ourselves on people if they don't want to be forced on, if you know what I'm saying.
so like, what's your most memorable gig as the Eraserheads? Something that
Oh
stands out in your
man.
memory, good or bad. Um,
Oh shit.
your first huge gig. Can we talk about that? Your
First
first, like,
huge gig. This gig was immortalized in Combo on the Run, the song on the last song on Ultra, and this was a gig we did with Intro Voice.
mhm.
At that time, we were an unknown band. We were playing in Club Dread, and Intro Voice was huge. They were the biggest band in the country, and we were sort of friends with them. And uh, they invited us to sort of front for them in their Cebu gig. So yeah, we went with them, and it was wild because first and foremost, Cebuanos were wild back then,
Yeah.
and they were into basically hair metal. They like their bands, almost all their bands sounded like Poison, stuff like that.
Yeah, the
Cherry
glam metal
Pie,
hair, yeah,
glam
Warren.
metal, Warrant, yeah. And then here we were, like a bunch of college kids, just wearing t-shirts and sneakers, and basically it did not go well. We were practically booed off stage.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Mm.
Who would have thought you would have been booed off stage?
No,
Considering.
it happens a lot. Even at our prime, we were there. It still happens.
So how do you deal with that? I mean, as a front man, you're the first person receiving all those boos. How do you deal with a hostile audience?
Well, I think growing up with a very authoritarian father kind of prepared me for it. So there's nothing that these people can say that would kind of hurt me or make me sad or depressed.
So you
Because
just keep on
a
just keep
lot
on
of worse
playing.
things have been said to me. So yeah, I just
Have you
take it in
ever
stride.
have you ever had members of an audience kicked out of the gig? Have you ever told your security, magulo yan, take them out?
Us, the band.
Yeah, the band.
Oh yeah, we were once sort not kicked out, but sort of we were banned from Club Dread once.
You were banned from Club Dread? Seriously? Club
Yes,
Dread?
yes,
Of
yeah.
all
Cause
the
we
places?
of all places, the one in QC,
Hmm.
in Scout the Bias. Yeah, I think we were on something. I'm not gonna say what. Marcus and I were on something.
Okay.
It was our first time and basically just tripping out on stage.
Oh,
And
wow.
I had no idea what was going on. And the next thing I knew, Raymond was walking. I think Raymond walked out or something, and then afterwards he told me we're banned from Club Dread, and I think he kicked out Marcos after that.
because you guys were having too much fun and not playing any music, or not
Right,
knowing what's
right,
going on.
right,
I mean,
right.
that's
Yeah.
but back in the day, that used to happen. I mean, how many gigs have I watched of? And I, rest in peace, but bless his soul. But I mean, Carl Roy,
Right.
it was a 50-50 thing when you would go to a POT or a kapatid gig, if he would be on the ball or not. And
Oh,
the funny thing is, we were always tolerant of it because that was Carl. Maybe because it wasn't you guys. You guys were the clean cut guys, kasi. Maybe that's why
yeah,
it's not.
maybe, maybe.
It was expected of you
It's
guys,
kind
di
of, yeah,
ba?
it was shocking. Yeah.
So in your heyday as the heads, I'm sure whenever you'd go out, you would eventually go out to a place where there would be a band playing. Um, that we're not your friends, right? Have you ever had an instance where you heard a terrible rendition of one of your songs being played in a bar
All the time.
all the time?
Yeah.
And would they be playing it because they would see you, and then this band would think, "Hey, man, let's play Ang Huling El Bimbo for Ellie."
Right, right.
And how do you have to put on a brave face for that, or
No,
or is it a
I don't
put
I
your
don't
sunglasses
put
on?
on any face.
You have the deadpan face
Yeah,
on,
yeah.
and then just okay, just get through it. And then what if, I
Mm.
mean, like a terrible rendition? I mean, I can only imagine how that would make you feel inside. If you had a deadpan face on, I'm sure you were squirming inside.
Oh
And I
yeah,
don't understand.
I can hide that very well. I can be I have a good poker face. Yeah.
Actually, do you play poker? Because I was just thinking you would actually
I
be pretty
don't.
damn. I
No,
think
I
you'd be
don't.
really okay. So is there a venue that you would refuse to play
Refuse to
nowadays
play? Hmm.
for any reason?
Not yeah, no, not a specific venue, but ever since I sort of kind of had a rough time during the pupil days, uh, I kind of avoid playing ano na ngayon, like provinces, just because they're not kind of up to date with what's going on with music. So they probably still think I'm still in the Eraserhead. So especially if I'm in another band like a Partel, um, and our manager would say, "Oh, we're playing this gig in this area, QC, for example," and I would parang sort of have an idea na of what the kind of people are there. I would just
Okay,
say, "Oh no, let's not play that gig because we're not gonna. It's not gonna go over well." Something like that.
okay. So that's on a case to case basis in terms
Right.
of what you can either pick your gigs or create your own gigs, which is what you have been doing. Now,
Mm-hmm.
with your heads, living life in the fast lane, inevitably, it had to give out somehow. And when the breakup was announced, a lot of people, got their hearts broken simply because of the idea that we wouldn't be getting any more albums out of you. And like I said, your music with the Eraserheads defined the generation. It was a soundtrack of the generation. What was the breakup about? Did
I
you
don't
guys
even
just
remember, man. It just fell apart.
oh,
It just fell
what do
apart.
you mean? Like all of a sudden, were there signs? Were there
Um,
I mean, in
well, I guess
retrospect,
I can speak for myself.
yeah.
I sort of felt. I guess I sort of first and foremost didn't have wasn't having fun anymore,
Mm,
and I felt I could do uh, what I really wanted in terms of music by going my own way, and a lot of other stuff like business decisions, um, not getting along well with your bandmates anymore, stuff like that.
And was there what the like the fallout of that breakup was, intense for the fans, and for for Pinoy rock in general, because the news that was akin to when Juan de la Cruz broke up, when the Eraserheads broke up and you were the sound of a generation. A lot of people were wondering what's going to happen now. And in terms of you saying, there were, it started falling apart and you weren't having fun anymore. These were
Mm.
your brothers. These were your friends. These were your brothers. And through the years, um, you've had reunions, right? And one particular reunion, you brought that piano out, the sticker happy piano out,
Hmm.
and I heard that, from my cuentos from other people, that nobody knew that you were actually going to destroy that piano. It was very symbolic for a lot of people. A lot of people that I've spoken to
Hmm.
felt like, oh my God, they were gonna, they were freaking out basically because that piano was so iconic, and it was your idea apparently.
Yeah,
How did that
it's my
idea come into
piano.
your head? It's your piano. Yeah, I'll destroy it if I want to. But
I'll destroy it if I want to.
if I'm not mistaken, the idea to destroy it, to get an axe and like destroy it, was not the original idea. You were
Axe?
gonna set it.
What
You're
axe?
gonna, I mean, like, to kick it apart, and
Oh,
like
okay.
destroy it, right? The original idea was to set it on fire,
It was. It
right?
was the original idea. Yeah.
And it didn't catch on fire as
It
as
didn't
big
catch
as
on
you
fire.
wanted
That's
to.
why I had to kick the piano so that I could somehow make a a very very theatrical thing going on there. Because the lighter fluid didn't do the job, man.
And that was Darius, right?
That was Darius. Yeah. I
Let's
told him,
mention his
oh,
name,
yeah,
Darius.
yeah, sa atin-atin lang to, bro. Ah. Buy me like gasoline so I can set the piano on fire at the right moment. And then just before the show, he came up to me and said, "Oh, here's your gasoline. It was lighter fluid."
It was a small can of lighter
Yeah,
fluid. That's
I
not.
had a hard time like set even like um getting a decent fire out of that. It was like it was pathetic basically.
And that's why you stepped in and had to kick it and
That's
basically
why
destroy it yourself. That was seen as a very huge statement in terms of,
I didn't mean it to be a statement. Actually, it wasn't meant to be a statement. It was
okay.
just just showmanship. I mean, we've always wanted to like destroy our guitars on stage, but somehow our manager said no, you can't do that. I don't know why, and I don't know why we listened to her. So there was always this parang desire to destroy stuff on stage, and uh, that reunion was the perfect time because yeah, basically we could have done anything that we
Yeah.
wanted. Yeah,
Yeah. So that was your, basically your Jimi Hendrix moment of setting your guitar on
my
fire.
Jimi Hendrix moment. That's it.
And it wasn't really a deeper statement. That, well, why didn't you tell anybody?
No, why? So,
Why didn't you tell anybody?
I wanted it to be a surprise.
I'm sure the fire marshals were freak. I mean, I'm a safety officer now. I would be.
I doubt they freaked out when they saw that. Like, what's he doing? Like pouring water on? There was no
And so,
fire.
how did it feel getting back together with the boys for that reunion, for those
It's
reunions?
fun. It was funny. It was funny because parang
After water under the bridge,
decades have passed, and you'd think there would be some sort of kind of maturity gained, but the first time we saw each other in the studio, we were all parang checking each other's sneakers out. Like, what's he wearing? Stuff like that. Really, really petty stuff that we somehow never outgrew. That was
And
funny.
but still, the music. Once the music started playing, did everything just?
Oh, you were talking about the music. Okay.
No, I mean, like, not just the music. I mean, like, not letting go of the issues and all that, but when the music, when you start playing the music, did everything flow like it used to?
Oh yeah, yeah. We basically played those songs like with our eyes closed, or yeah, it was very much easy. And the only difference was parang this time out, parang I sort of decided to be the mature musician and not parang sort of kind of hog the limelight when it came to guitar playing,
Mm.
because most of the time I sort of kind of during the early days during the recordings parang I established myself as the lead guitar of the band, even though I
Yeah.
couldn't like play lead while singing because I'm vocals, and I should just be sticking to rhythm guitar. But pag recording kasi, it's like I can do these solos better. I mean, I wrote these solos, so I'm going to do them. So this time out during the reunion, I decided now I'll let Marcus play everything this time, and I'll just stick to my role as a rhythm guitar player. And
And basically just back him up.
he did,
You know.
yeah, he did a pretty good job with playing all the solos.
So how does it feel? So as I mentioned earlier, I personally know people who have gotten laid to your music, who have gotten married to your music, who have given birth to your music. And that does take a certain responsibility along with it, because in terms of you are the marriage, you're the song at their wedding, you are the song that they're breaking up to, you are the song that you wrote the song that they fell in love to. How does that make you feel as an artist? Do you bear any responsibility to
I hate responsibility, man.
that? Responsibility is like a four-letter word, right? But
Right.
people have but people have lived their
Sorry, it's
life
not
and
my.
times
I
to your
don't think
music.
it's my problem. I don't think it's my problem. Sorry.
So if you were to choose, any moment that you could do again in the within the Eraserheads um period of time, when you're
Mm,
saying that you're learning to be more confrontational now,
mm-hmm,
if you were more
mm-hmm.
confrontational then, would it have helped? Do you think the band would have stayed together a little bit longer?
I think so. I think it would have made a huge difference. Like if I had just gone out and said, "Oh, I don't like what you're doing," or "Please stop this," or "I'm not comfortable with this." Yeah, it would have, because I've always assumed that people would do whatever I wanted, or that we were like in the same headspace in terms of decision making. So when it came time na parang, oh, why is he not doing this? Or why are we like having a difference of opinion? I always parang said na, oh, baka he'll get around to, he'll realize his mistake or whatever. Or he'll see things my way, they'll see things my way. But it never happened. It never does. So from then
So
on,
in
I never assumed that people thought the same way I did.
so in the sense that if you had just spoke up earlier with the band and said, I'm not having fun anymore, how can we make this fun?
Yeah,
That
yeah.
would
But
make
then
a
again,
difference.
that was so not me during that time. I wasn't that person who would parang say, "Oh, can we sit down and talk about this?" Parang nababaduyan ako sa ganon.
Yeah, because yeah, you
Uh,
expect to go with the flow or to
Yeah,
realize it?
yeah, go with the flow, man. I mean,
Mm. I mean, it's
why should
art.
we talk about stuff? Yeah.
Parang jazz lang yun. Parang tinginan
Yeah.
lang tayo. Tapos
Parang jazz,
alam
exactly. But
natin. Mm.
sad to say, we weren't jazz people. We weren't jazz men. We just thought we were, you know. Yeah. We can jam, we can improvise for days, but in terms of making other decisions, we're not improvisers.
Okay, so with your Eraserheads experience, right? When you've always maintained that you were not good at doing cover songs, and that
Hmm.
led you to writing your own songs. I want to go back a little further and see, when do you remember the first time that you discovered rock and roll? That what music was that, or what song was that made you sit up and say, "Hey, this is amazing," and that's rock and roll. I want to do that. I want to be like that. Is there any specific song?
You mean form a band or start
For
writing or just basically
basically just
music?
yeah, just basically music. Like I remember, I grew up in a family where we would listen to either my parents' music or show tunes, Broadway
Yeah,
tunes. So I grew up
yeah.
with Frank Sinatra, Sarah Vaughan, Bill Eckstein, or
Uh huh.
or Broadway, right? And I
Uh huh.
remember my sister bringing home a cassette tape of Sticks, and
Hmm.
she played it, and that blew my mind because that was my first exposure to rock and roll when I said, "Uy, may music palang ganito." Do you have that moment in your childhood?
I cer- I certainly did. Like I said, we had a lot of vinyl, mostly
Mm.
45s at home. So any new single that came out during that era, um, I was exposed to. I listened to. Like I think, yeah, there was Juan de la Cruz. That's probably the only rock and roll I was exposed to during that time because it was that and mostly other soul artists like see Rico J.
And that led you into saying, "Hey, I want to form a band."
Not
When did
really.
that? When did that
I just liked listening to it and forming a band. We would have to jump to high school na
happen? Okay,
when the British invasion happened
the
and all
British
those
in
new all those new wave bands
yeah,
came out like Tears for Fears, The Cure, who else?
The Cure was one of
Uh,
my favorite bands growing up, and it was always an adventure trying to complete my collection of their albums. So
mm-hmm,
the Cure was a huge
mm-hmm,
influence in terms of, I mean, Robert Smith and the rest of the guys were
mm,
amazing.
yeah,
Um, when you wanted to form a band, what was the reason for you that I want to form a band? I want to get together with other people and play music.
it just looked so much fun.
Yeah.
This was the time when MTV was the biggest thing in the world,
Hmm.
and you would see, these people, these musicians, um, having so much fun in those videos, and you wanted to be them. You wanted to be just like them. You idolize them, and then from then on, I was hooked. I started songwriting, and I got together some friends, and we tried forming a band. This was in high school, like 85, 86. Actually, si
Hmm.
Darius, naging kabanda ko yan eh, nung
Talaga.
high school. Yeah, he played drums, and we were in this band called Anguish, which he named. Yeah.
Anguish. Wow. The angst,
Oh yeah,
pare.
pang metal eh.
Ano yung mga did you guys write or did you guys cover?
Mostly covers because I was still parang in my I was just starting out writing. It was very very idiotic lyrics and very um, very familiar melodies. My melodies that I just stole from other songs.
Hmm. But wow, the anguish. May the ba or
Anguish.
anguish? Anguish lang.
Anguish
Walang the.
lang. Walang the, pare.
Walang the.
Never put the. Except for the itchy worms.
The itchy worms.
Mm.
So
Uh,
you discovering like your musical taste. I mean, I've read that, your parents were responsible for your musical taste, particularly your mother. You used to sing.
mm,
You just told me you used to sing your mom to sleep. In
mm,
that sense, you learned from the Condimans to Rico J. Puno to Juan de la Cruz, and all that.
mm.
If like the childhood Ellie, if you could talk to the childhood Ellie, now, the man that you are now, and go back in time and tell yourself as a child, about being a musician, what would you say to the childhood Ellie, to the young
I
Ellie?
don't know. I don't know. Maybe I would just pat him on the back and say, "Hey, you're doing great. Just keep
Tuloy mo lang
doing
yan.
what you're doing. Tuloy mo lang yan. Okay yan, okay yan."
If you didn't become a musician, though, what other profession would you have gotten into? I mean, you
Oh,
you 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 went into filmmaking, and that's where we actually hung out. That's
that
actually
was my second choice.
as being a filmmaker.
Yeah, my
When you
first
did,
choices was architecture. I actually applied for architecture in UP, which was a quota course.
yeah,
So of course I didn't pass because I didn't know that there was math involved.
yeah, you just thought like when you're young, right? When you're going into
Eh,
college, I can take
Kala ko
whatever I
puro
want
drawing
to.
lang,
Drawing
di ba?
lang.
Puro drawing
Oh,
lang.
puro
Oh, may
drawing.
math pala.
When you went into like as the filmmaker, right? When you got me to be in Bang Bang Alley, I actually
Hmm.
that's a pretty good story to tell. Because this was your first endeavor behind the camera, right?
Right, right.
You This was your first directorial, and Ellie as a director was actually fantastic in one sense and scary in another sense, because there was this scene where I had to kill somebody, and she was this wonderful old lady who was a big star in
Yeah.
Tagalog movies. And Ellie came up to me, and this is just a tangent story, right? We were in this abandoned place in Ilocos, right? Oh no,
Yeah.
sorry, on the way up
Benguet.
north, yeah, in
Yeah,
Benguet,
Marcos Highway, Benguet.
the Marcos Highway. And so I had to kill this woman. I was one of the henchmen, the contrabidas. And he asked me, so
Perla,
Jamie,
Perla Bautista.
yes, si
Perla
Tita Perla.
Bautista.
And
Oh.
so Ellie asked me, so Jamie, how are we going to kill her? And I'm like, I don't know. You wrote this. What do you mean? How am I gonna get to kill her? So we spent like 10 minutes discussing the possibilities of how we're going to kill this character, and me being the henchman. And it shows a lot about your process in terms of collaboration, where you basically threw that question for me. So Jamie, you're the hitman, and you've never been caught. You've been doing this a while. How would you shoot this lovely old lady? I mean, how would you kill this lovely old lady? Would you use a gun? Would you use a knife? Would you use, and in the process of actually discussing this with Ellie, who was the director, who was asking me how I would do it, we decided that this killer would be a found object killer. And I remember this conversation quite clearly, because when I said found object, there are things like that in the video games where, okay, you have found object, you pick it up, and eventually down the line in the video game, it will be useful. And we
Mm,
decided, okay, so maybe he can be that kind of a killer. So we don't have to stab
yeah.
her, we don't have to, shoot
Yeah.
her and all that. And we ended
Uh,
up killing her with the bimpo,
Bimpo.
with the
Yeah, that
bimpo
was
on her
on her
shoulder.
shoulder.
Yeah. And I think it was a great scene. And that alone, like, when you're responsible for a big set, and staying on schedule and getting your shots in, that for me opened my eyes in what kind of collaborator you are, because you basically threw it to the actor, and you rarely see
Mm,
that nowadays. Another funny story, because we used to live in that, we were there for like 3 days in that
yeah, yeah.
location in Benguet. And of course, in the
Mm,
evenings when we weren't shooting, Ellie would pick up his guitar and he would play songs. And I remember him playing the Beatles, the way she moves. There's something in the way she moves, and I
Or
start singing
something.
along. I
Mhm.
start singing along, and I'm fucking up the lyrics, but I'm just continuing singing. And then Ellie just gives me a look, going, "Hoy, hindi yan yung lyrics." And I don't care because I've been drinking. I haven't had any sleep, and here I am thinking, okay, so Jamie, you just basically, he's gonna send you home the next day because you just screwed up the lyrics to something in the way she moves, and I didn't care. I was just singing along because it was a beautiful evening and all that. But
Yeah,
Ellie's
yeah.
not that kind of guy, He did shoot. You did shoot me a look though. You
Did
did shoot
I?
me a look.
Did I?
Yeah, you did. I
Okay.
remember that quite clearly, and that's
Must have been a loving look, Jamie.
no, you were like the look actually said, "I can't believe you don't know the second verse. You're repeating the first." Like, that's all I know. That's all I know. I was on my sleeping bag on the floor. You were sitting down on a chair with your guitar, and you just shot me. And we had candles pa kasi walang kuryente. Remember
Walang
that?
kuryente.
Walang
Yeah.
kuryente doon. So, we were sitting there by candlelight, and I get a look from
Yeah.
Ely Buendia going, "Di mo alam yung lyrics. Napaka-iconic na song." But, in your, credit to you, you just let me sing.
Yeah.
Even if I was repeating the verses, the same verse each time, you let me sing. So, do you have any desire to go back into film?
Yeah, man, definitely. Uh,
Do you have
I,
stories
re-
that you want to
I
tell?
really, I have lots of stories I want to tell. I really, really enjoyed that experience, with you and with the whole cast, even though it was like a sort of a 30, 40-minute short story. Um, I can't, parang, I don't know any other um, art form wherein you really, really have to be uh, on your A game all the time and always coming up with ideas, always dealing with different kinds of situations. I mean, I live for that shit, man. And it makes me feel so alive. And it's another parang eye-opening thing I realized about myself when I was directing is that I was really, really calm during
Yeah,
that
you
whole
were.
time.
You were. And
Uh,
despite all the
yeah,
obstacles, you were
yeah, yeah.
very calm.
I've always I never really expected anything from me in terms of how to deal with adversity in any situation. But surprisingly, I'm at my best. I think when I'm behind the camera and calling all the shots. So I guess that control freak side of me really let loose during filmmaking and doing stuff like that. So yeah, I really think I made for that kind of work. Being behind the scenes.
So I think, if your stories, I think that would be a great format for you. I'm watching the way you work. As you said, your control freak aspect came
Mm,
out, but then it's funny
mm,
because your pagka-control freak did not translate to your actors. You gave quite a lot of freedom to your
mm,
actors in that film. I
mm,
would see you talking to Megan Young, to Perla,
mm.
and you would actually be asking our opinion on how do you think this scene is going to go, and then I would see you planning your shots around it. So it's still a very collaborative
It
environment, even
is.
though you were 100% in charge.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
did remember that there was one time you did kind of slightly freak out in Bang Bang when we were shooting in up in Benguet,
Yeah.
where there's a scene where I get shot. Megan Young shoots me and I die, right? And it was raining.
Mm-hmm.
It was a
Mm.
sunset shot. It was, I think, one of the last scenes that we took,
Yeah.
because basically they had to put the squib on me. And I remember, we didn't tell you this until after the shot, where the stunt guy who was attaching the squib underneath my t-shirt was telling me that this is the last squib that they
Uh-huh.
had. So he told me, "Sir, this is the last squib. So sana maganda yung take kasi wala na tayong squib, yung
Uh,
exploding na may blood and all that. So we
uh,
decided, I took a look at him and I'm like, okay, I'm not going to tell anybody this. I'm just going to make sure we get a good take. And it was funny because once we did that we rehearsed it for a few minutes, a few times where I was going to fall, in the gubat and all that. And once we did the take and you said, all right, that's it, print, we got it, only then did I tell you and you freaked out. You're like, what? You mean they couldn't have taken a take two? I'm like, nope, that was our last quib, man. And he said, butin lang, we got it. Like, yeah. Sometimes the universe cooperates in a
yeah.
sense.
Those are the moments you live for, you know?
Yeah. And I think those are the moments that you actually build for. When you get the right people
Mm-hmm.
around
Mm-hmm.
you, and that's the same thing with bands,
Mm-hmm.
with music, with any collaboration. You
Mm-hmm.
get the right people around you, and you prepare for the worst, but you hope for the best. And sometimes the universe says,
Right,
"Yeah, this is it."
right.
Um, okay, so that's that. I mean, we've all gone all the way back to the beginning, but let's take it back. Um,
Hold
in so you're
on, Jamie, Jamie.
yeah,
Sorry. Adrian, salamat. Salamat, Adrian.
Adrian.
Oh,
Adrian, congratulations
shout out
on
lang.
your new son. On your new son.
Yeah,
Yeah,
congrats, Adrian. Si Cal.
si Cal.
Cal.
Adrian, I love working with Adrian. He's fantastic.
Oh yeah, I
And I
love him
and I
too. I
have
love him too.
every time I encounter him online or even like, in person, I have to say Adrian like in Rocky. And he always answers me, Jamie, what's up? You know. So okay, so definitely film. Film, I think you should, I mean there are more stories to tell, and I think you have a lot of stories that you could tell that will translate well into film. And I'd like to point out that, from when you said that you were going to form a band when you were in high school because you were seeing these guys having so much fun.
Hmm.
It's amazing to realize that, that's pretty much the same thing you said at the top of our show today, talking about the
Oh yeah.
offshore musician, um, that it should be a fun experience. So I
Hmm.
think that's an important message for the people who are listening, the people who want to embark on any creative endeavor. If it ain't fun, stop doing it. Find something fun to do because basically life is too short. And with your with your career and your many incarnations, I think you're just having more and more fun. And I salute you you know, in taking artists into offshore so that they're having as much fun as they can have as well. And in terms of, bringing new music out to us, I think that's a fantastic thing to do. And that's just, my way of putting it full circle. Fun is the operative word. Responsibility, Dana, but fun. Fun is the best way to actually take it around, going there and back
Yeah.
again.
Right, right.
Um, all right, so I think it's time for a quick rundown. So we have, 10 quick questions right now that
Okay.
we're going to be asking you. And, first thing that pops into your head, okay? Um, what is your favorite word?
Elixir
Elixir. Wow.
or anything that has my name on it.
Like elevator?
Elevator. Right.
Elixir. Great. What is your least favorite word?
No.
What turns you on?
What turns me on? I guess guilelessness.
Hmm. People without an agenda,
Right.
right? Okay. What turns you off?
Rudeness.
Rudeness. What sound or noise do you love?
The sound of my motorcycle pipes.
There you go, man. Your motorcycle. What turns you off? What sound turns you off?
What sound turns me off? The sound of the steel doors in shops, the rolling steel doors when they close. The sound of shops closing. Basically, I hate that sound.
Okay, what's your favorite curse word?
Jesus Christ,
What's your favorite drink of all time? If anybody's gonna see you at the bar, what drink do they buy you?
milk.
Milk,
Yeah,
non-fat,
milk.
not
Any kind of milk.
kind of milk,
Wag lang
chocolate.
kondensada. Wag lang kondensada.
If you could perform with any artist, dead or alive, who would that be?
Prince, man. It has to
Prince.
be Prince. Yeah.
Prince. Okay. When you get to heaven, what do you think God would say to you?
I think he would say, "Oh, Ellie, kantahin mo naman yung El Bimbo." And then I would say, "Sorry God, pero I get paid to do that."
Yeah, there you go. You would tell God, wait lang. You can't pull any request. All right, another one. Okay, so this is I'm going to add on to the 10 questions. It's going to be the 11th question, and this is something that's been burning in my brain. You have written a lot of songs, a lot of
Yeah.
beautiful, amazing songs. If you could choose one song that you are
Oh
the
damn.
most proud
Uh,
to have
uh,
written,
that is so
one,
hard.
just
That
one.
is so
I know
hard.
it's hard. I know it's hard, but what would that song be?
Okay, maybe Poor Man's Grave.
Poor Man's Grave.
All right. That's the
There you go.
closest I think I can get to being, to writing a song like Bob Dylan,
Poor Man's
which is
Grave.
to me the standard, the highest standard of songwriting.
Okay, one for the road. For anyone starting out in music today, what words of advice would you give them?
Learn from your mistakes
And I can imagine, don't repeat your mistakes, just make whole
and
new
don't.
mistakes.
Yeah, just
Make
don't
whole new
repeat your
ones.
mistakes. Make all new ones.
So we've got a lot of questions, and I think the funniest question that I saw, it's about Paul McCartney. Um,
Hmm.
there's a funny question here, and I think this person should. I mean, it's such an off tangent but funny question. Can we see that, Miss Hempburns? There's a guy who asks a question about, you know, guitar players, most probably. All I hear is ha 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 ha. I'm scrolling through the comments right now, trying to look for that question, and hopefully I find it because Adrian, Jamie going full boy abunda. What? Shit. God damn it. Okay, so ito. Oh, um, from Tyrone, I think. This is funny. Tyrone, tangin na mong Adrian, ha? Gago ka, ah. Gago mo ako, ha? Okay, so, Eli Buendia. Oh, si John, okay, if you had to choose, John Lennon or Paul McCartney?
Oh man,
What a
no, just
question, right?
no,
What a question.
no. Not gonna
Oh,
answer that. Not gonna
you're
answer
not gonna
that.
answer that? I
It's a
think,
stupid question. Sorry.
right? Right? It's so like left fucking field. And okay, John
No,
Lennon
not
or Paul
gonna answer
McCartney,
that.
you're not gonna answer that. And I think
You
that's the
can't.
question. That's
Yeah,
the
you
question that's
can't
gonna
choose.
win. That's the question that's gonna win this CD from Offshore.
All
It's a
right, all
question that
right.
Ellie is not gonna answer. It's probably the dumbest question, but the most interesting question of the evening. In this sense, and I think that really does deserve a CD. Um,
All right,
okay,
congrats,
one last.
congrats, Tyrone.
That's Tyrone. All right, just make sure to message the Offshore Music Facebook page, so that we can get your details and we can have it delivered to you. One
Okay.
last question, Ellie. Since while I have you,
All right.
okay, while
Shoot.
I labas mo na yung mirror, Jamie Chino. What do you mean, man? What do you mean? Chino, I swear. Okay, so you've achieved all these things. You have achieved fame and fortune. Yes. Um, did fame and fortune meet your expectations?
I think, yeah, I think it did. Yeah, and exceeded it also.
So you wouldn't do anything different. You are happy with what that you got what you wanted. Did you get what you wanted
I think I
out
did,
of it?
and so much more.
And so that's always good to be grateful for, to be thankful for.
Yes,
And
in the end, I'm grateful. Despite all my complaints, I can't be, I don't want to do anything differently. Um, Things happen for a reason, and that's why I'm here, and I'm thankful for that.
that's the best, blessings anybody could ever have. I mean, that's why, there's this saying that be careful what you wish for, because you actually might get it. And when you did get it, you're thankful for it, you're grateful for it,
Mm.
and it has actually exceeded your expectations. And we are actually lucky that we have had somebody like you. I mean, what a shame it would be if you just became an architect. You'd probably design fantastic buildings, right? Lights on, lights off. What ki- Zep? What kind
Is
of a
that?
question is that, man? On or lights off? I don't know, man.
Yan.
It depends.
Yan.
On
Yan ba yan?
parang parang wax on, wax off. Pwede ba 'yun? So all right. So thank you so much, Ellie. Thank you. I mean, I keep on saying this to
Thanks,
you every time I
Jamie.
talk. I'd like to thank you for your music. I'd like to thank you for being brave to explore, exactly what more you have to offer. And I keep on hoping that you know, you will never stop in terms of exploring what more you have to give. What if you release a country western album, I would friggin' buy it, because I think you can write anything. I think you can sing anything, and I think your songs have been such a big part of a lot of our lives. And it's so nice to have this opportunity to talk to you, get to know the stories behind it. And thank you for your time, and thank you for your art.
Thank you, Jamie. Maraming salamat din sa lahat ng fans who have been with me throughout all these years. Thank you.
And you know what? You're just gonna keep on getting more fans because hey, I don't think an artist like you is ever gonna stop. So please don't stop. Keep on going. Ladies and gentlemen, that's Ely Buendia. All right. So thank you so much, Ellie. And we're gonna say goodbye now.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you so
Bye,
much, Ellie.
guys.
Um, all right. So guys, that was on the rocks with Ely Buendia. That's a 2 hours. There were more questions I wanted to ask, but I think it's nice to perhaps there's gonna be a part two. Perhaps we're gonna have more questions. We're gonna certainly check out the chat and see all the questions that you have had. I'm sorry for the lack of shout outs. Um, for people who are asking all these shout outs and all about the news of a possible reunion and, et cetera, et cetera. But really, just spend 2 hours talking to Ellie about his whole run with music was a fantastic way to sit down and spend a Wednesday evening. And I'd like to thank all of you guys for spending your Wednesday evening. So, hey, be sure next week we're going to have fantastic guests again. So watch out for the announcement of the next episode of On the Rocks with me, Jamie Wilson. And hey, keep rocking, keep rolling. And thank you to everybody who showed up tonight. And thank you everybody who's going to be watching this on repeat. Don't forget, we're up on Spotify as well. We're up on YouTube as well in a couple of days. And hey, thank you to Miss Hemp Burns for making sure we stay on track. She's our behind the scenes operator. I can hear her laughing in the background. Thank you, Sir Banlao. No, I'm Jamie now. I'm not Banlao. Kasi kung si Banlao nagtatanong ng mga questions, ibang questions yan. So, hey, man, that's on the rocks. I'm Jamie Wilson. Thank you, Ely Buendia. Thank you, Offshore Music. And guys, keep on rocking, keep on rolling. Cheers. Thank you very much, and good night.